Episode 60 of the Back of the Class podcast. My name's Ben.
My name's Glenn.
Before we start off this week's episode, we'd like to say a huge thank you to our sponsors: Coco's Cakes, VIR Electrical, Members First Credit Union, Balgriffin Inn, Pitchside Pizza and Grill, and Orm. And this week we're joined by
Brian Pennie.
Thanks a lot for coming in, Brian.
Buzzing to be here, lads. Absolutely, really am.
Buzzing to have you on.
We were just talking before the mics and cameras went on, and question that just popped into my head: why did you decide to do a podcast in seasons and not like weekly episodes? Or
do you know what? And this is what I do with a lot of things in life. I look at people who are ahead of the game with me, and it's people I respect. And for me, it was the Good Glow podcast with Georgie Crawford, and I've seen she does it in seasons. So I didn't really think too much about it, to be quite honest, and I just went with seasons, yeah. But in saying that as well, I've noticed if I'm looking for sponsorships, I can get sponsored per season.
Yeah.
So it kind of worked out for me that way as well. So I was a bit lucky.
Yeah, so we were talking to Calvin as well, and it's much more practical than the seasons because you can sort of plan ahead, and then you can take a little gap to edit everything and get everything out and get a bit more time.
Got lucky there.
You did, yeah.
But the only thing about the week-to-week thing is it's very good at making your mind be able to clutch up when you need to clutch up.
Yeah.
Like if you haven't got, like, I've got very good at like planning. So like for a while I'd like really mess the guests up. Like I wouldn't have a guest one week and then we'd be stuck for a guest the week after. But now we're planning weeks before.
Yeah.
So you get good at like prioritising what you need to do.
Yeah, that's true. I actually recorded the whole 10 episodes before I even released one, so I had them all in the bag, and I'm trying to get season 2 recorded now before I even start, so it's nice, just so you're not backtracking on stuff, you know.
It was actually a quote I was making up in my head today. I kept thinking, because I was asking somebody what the best piece of advice they received was, because they kept asking me to come on the podcast and all, and I work with this fella, so just throwing a few questions at him, like, and then he said it to me, and I've asked so many people this and got so much advice off people, and I kept thinking, and one of them, there's plenty now, but one of them I made up by myself was speed kills doubt. So the faster you do something, the less time you have to doubt, and the less time you're going to procrastinate on it. Like if you say you make a decision, right, I'm going to start the drums, you say, but I'll start in about 2 weeks. In that 2 weeks, your mind is going to make up every excuse you can find in 2 weeks. But you say, right, I'm going to start the drums, I'll start in 20 minutes, and you just go on and start. Your mind will start to think, oh look, this is good and this is good, why don't we do this again tomorrow, and it will sort of focus on the positive. It's a weird way the mind works, but that'd be one of the best advices I made up in my own head. Speed kills doubt.
Speed kills doubt. I love that, and it's very true. That's backed up by science as well.
It is.
Like it's like that limbic part of your brain, the survival part of your brain that wants to avoid pain, chase pleasure and stuff like that. That'll get you into trouble, you know what I mean? That survival piece will work. So if you got an idea, just jump with it.
Yeah.
It's like it's a quote I sort of live by. It's like learn how to, or take a big bite, learn how to chew later.
Yeah.
So if you make a mistake, you'll figure it out, you know what I mean? Especially you lads are in a great position, 16, 17 years of age now, and for anyone listening that's young, like it's a great opportunity to make your mistakes when you're young. You get away, people will let you away with more, so fail, make mistakes, ask for, like, it's a lovely line as well, like, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. Go for the first and ask for forgiveness. It's much easier, you know, that way. So when you're young, it's a really speed kills doubt. Love it.
It is a good one. I was weighing up all the advice I got, and a wise man once said to me, the hardest obstacle he overcame was other people's doubts and other people's limits. And I was thinking, that is like one of the best things. Like other people will doubt you and other people's limits will make you doubt yourself, but self-doubt is also one of the hardest things. So then I was thinking, and it's just like, the faster you do something, the less time you have to doubt yourself, and the less time someone else has to doubt yourself. So that's how I sort of came up with that.
I love that, and you know what? I done a mentorship program with a gang of young fellas. It was actually girls and lads. There was more. It was eight lads, 2 girls. It was in a school in Killanarden and Tala, and from a challenging area, you know, that way. But one of the biggest things I recognised was just lack of confidence, self-doubt. It seems to be a big thing it's a big thing with all people, but especially with younger people as well. So it's an ability to be able to navigate that self-doubt, that inner critic telling you you're not good enough, because it's a very strong force. So if you can just do it, just give it a bash and be okay with messing up. Like, you know what I mean? It's alright to mess up. You learn in the process, you know?
Like,
Yeah,
that's something, I was actually in a deep conversation with somebody the other day, photographer, he's young, he's only 15 or so, and he'd sort of be a friend of ours because sort of similar paths bring people together, and we're both sort of entrepreneurs and stuff like that, and got talking to him, and we were talking about how scared we were to start, and how we talked to other people with brilliant ideas, but they'd be way too afraid to even start, and like sort of that's why like it lit a little fire in me now. Like if I was talking to anybody and they told me something like, oh, I'd love to start, like, I always knit at home, and I'd love to start selling it, and I always make clothes for my friends, but I'd be way too scared to make the Instagram just in case this person or that person thinks of it. And I just always try and encourage that person, because like, it's just like, in a world full of negatives, like, I know myself, it's nice to have the one sort of bright light and somebody who actually will push it when you're scared to push yourself, because then there's just a snowball effect. Like at the start, Glenn would have pushed me to do, so I was terrified to start this.
Putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
And now
I never really cared about, although, no, I wouldn't say I never really cared about putting myself out there. I think before we set up the podcast, I was in a short film with Naomi Sheridan, do you know Jim Sheridan?
Yeah.
His daughter. So
Right.
I think that kind of obviously spurred me on to
Give you a little bit of confidence or whatever, yeah.
But like, when we set this up, I think we actually set it up in Kenya. Like the idea came to us when we were on an immersion project.
He's over in Kenya. Fair play, lads. He's not living, only 17.
Yeah.
Stop, I wasn't out of Blanche when I was 17. I went in Kenya.
That was in school. We set that up when we were in Kenya, and then as soon as we came back, it's kind of back in his point. Like, as soon as we came back, we got into it straight away, and that's something I've noticed. Is I tell people, like, set something up straight away, because I think you lose the passion. I think when you set it up, you have passion, but if you the long way kind of takes that passion away from it. And like, we walked hours and hours today. We were trying to set it up.
we have some amount of stories for you if we ever go on your podcast.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm dying to have you.
Anyways, tell us a bit about yourself. Tell us about when your journey started and sort of the struggles you faced in your early days.
Right, so a lot of people think my story, I was addicted to heroin, chronically addicted to heroin for 15 years. Born in Finglas, lived in Ballymun, lived in Canada for a year as well. We moved over there, but I spent most of my days in Blanchardstown. And addiction was a huge part of my story. But the real story I had was trauma. I had a lot of trauma as a baby. I had parents, lovely parents, but they were alcoholics, so I had a lot of fear around alcohol and just growing up and thinking me man they were gonna kill themselves, drink driving and stuff. So just mental health challenges, anxiety, panic attacks. And I always say this about addiction, like, it's not about the drugs. It wasn't about the heroin. That wasn't the real problem. That was a symptom of an underlying problem, which was anxiety and panic attacks. And I was just using drugs to medicate and soothe. So I spent years and years, like, I think people often think of especially heroin addicts as like on the streets begging, robbing and all this kind of stuff, but that's not the reality of it. It's very nuanced. And I was on a methadone program for 12 years, chronically addicted to heroin for 15 years, but I worked for nearly all of that time. So it was only in 2013 lost my job. I did Lewis. The drugs took everything away from me in the end. But I had a near-death experience is probably the best way of putting it. It was a grand mal, a very severe seizure that left me in hospital thinking I was brain damaged. And something about that experience just shifted me. Like, it was the most painful moment of my life, but it was the most important moment of my life. Because it just shook me to the core, whether it was spiritual, psychological, emotional, a combination of them all. I just knew I'd never do drugs again. And I was bitten by the bug of life. And I get off you lads, like, I'm mesmerised by people your age that just have that little bit of fire and passion and go-getting attitude, because I didn't have any of that. I just wanted to take drugs and escape and avoid. But something shifted inside of me, and I think it was the years I lost. I was 35 years of age at this stage, and it was the years that I lost that I wasn't regretting it or anything like that, but I wanted to make up for lost time. So I just went on a mission. I went to study. I started reaching out to people, to mentors. I'm just always like boldness. I create a set of values, and boldness is a value of mine. I love taking a risk, taking a chance.
Yeah.
Like I got to meet my hero, Dr. Gabor Mate, by just leaving a blank voice note to someone I didn't know that was going to meet him, and it all came to fruition. You know, just taking a risk, taking a chance, and it all stems from those dark times that just gave me that sort of the mindset I have today, and I wouldn't change that for the world. That's the way it had to be for me.
That's something I always say to people. That's actually, when you first ask what gave us, like, what makes us the way we are, I don't think people are born, I think they're made. Like, the more experiences people have, the more failures, the more wins people have. That's how, right, I like this, I don't like this, I like that, or I have a good trait of ambition, I have a bad trait of this, like, the big example I use with Ronaldo. People would be like, oh, how does he deal with the fame, how does he deal with the money, I'd be this, I'd be that. And I'm saying, but like, Ronaldo wasn't born either, he was made. He had his first match, he had his first fan interaction, he had his first million, he had his first car, he had his first nil, and all of them experiences built him up to who he is today. I think that's the same anyone else, how big or small you are, every single experience builds you up to who you are today.
Yeah,
I think it's possible to make yourself though. Like Ronaldo talks about like goal setting, and he used to have like a set of values he went off as a kid. I think that obviously led him to be what he is today.
Right, I didn't know that about Ronaldo. He was big on values, big on values.
Yeah, he was big into like writing goals when he was a kid.
Yeah.
Like obviously coming up 17, 18, 19.
Yeah.
I think that's what obviously built him.
How did you start to turn your life around then? Because I'm sure, I'm just guessing here, but you would have burnt a lot of bridges, you would have closed a lot of doors for yourself.
I certainly burnt a lot of bridges. It was mad. Like, I was so delusional, and it's really funny, like, self-delusion has helped me in recovery as well, because when I was in addiction, I was so delusional, because I worked, I drove a car, and I didn't think I was a real addict. Like, I was going to a clinic, giving urines once a week. I was drinking methadone. Because my urines were always dirty, I had to drink the methadone in the pharmacy every day. I had to go in and get me methadone. But I didn't think I was a real addict. Like, what the hell's a real addict? Like, you know what I mean? So there was a sense of self-delusion within that. And when I came into recovery, it was like that sense of delusion was still there, but in a sort of a positive way. Like, people think impulsivity is even a bad thing, but what I've learned is just like functional impulsivity. Impulsivity can serve you. Like, speed kills doubt. So impulsively jump into something, that's not a problem. People think impulsivity is a bad thing.
Yeah.
So I was impulsive, I was delusional enough to think I could go to college and pull something off, because I hadn't got the ability, but the actions took me there, and I learned during the process. So I think the big trick for me in terms of turning my life around was just going out there and just really pushing, but having that, I often say, like, there's a thin line between self-delusion and self-belief, and you nearly have to cross that sometimes to think. You have to be deluded enough to think you can do it, to start it off, you know.
It's only delusional until it works.
That's it.
It's actually a big 50 Cent quote.
Is it? No
I
way.
drilled it into my head the 2 weeks before we met him, because I knew it was going to happen.
You met 50 Cent, did you?
met 50 Cent.
Savage, man.
Wait, 2 weeks before it happened, I drilled it into my head. It's a thing, and it's, people say, oh, I'm crazy. Yep, I was crazy enough to believe what was going to happen, and then it happened.
Then
so
it
call me
happened.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And like people like 50 are built off delusion. Like obviously, the way I look at delusion is like, it's not wishful thinking. Like, you can't just sit there and then magically whatever you want appears.
Yeah.
I think you have to meet your delusion halfway.
Yeah.
Like obviously you have to put the work in to meet that delusion.
Yeah.
Kind of like what you say about aligned action. Like if you actually align yourself, your action to your goal, you're gonna hit it eventually.
Yeah. It's like that word manifest. I'm not a big fan of the word manifesting, because I think it focuses on the belief and the dreams, where it's more about the action. And I love how you phrase that, you know what I mean? It's getting the actions to align with where you want to go. That's the key.
You like how I phrase this, then I always say to people with manifestation, you can manifest all you want, but if you manifest to win the lotto, you still have to go out and buy a lotto ticket.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
And then it's in the hands of the gods, where if you're manifesting, like, one of my manifestations or me dreams is nearly owning a chalet in the Alps. Like, I love skiing, I love the mountains, and I always says I'll write one of my books in the Alps, and it's like the actions, like the funny thing about manifesting is, right, you can manifest something very specifically of what you want. It's the actions that count of what you're going to do to get you there. But the actions might bring you somewhere else. Like, I still want that chalet in the Alps, but maybe in 5 years, 10 years, it could be something else that might change. But those actions will bring me to a position of where an ability to get what I want to get in life.
Yeah.
But that might change over time. Like what you lads want now at 17, by the time you put all them actions in and you're 30, like, you might be manifesting something to have when you're 30, but when you're 30, you might want something else. You might have the opportunity to manifest that, but that might change as well. So things are always changing. Even the goals, you start with a goal in mind, but it shifts over time as well. The actions is what's important. It really is.
Yeah, definitely.
Was it scary going to college then? And how did you decide? Why did you decide college? Why did you decide that course?
So it was funny, right? So it was scary. I was going to say it wasn't scary, but it actually was. So when I was in detox, something happened to me. I wish I could bottle it up and give it to people, but with that near-death experience, something shifted deeply inside of me. And when I was at a detox facility out in on the outskirts of Dublin, and I have a little farm out in Knoll, I just woke up. It was like my body, my soul, my brain, my emotional world, everything came back alive. And it's very hard to put it into words. Like, I was floating around the farm, just everything just blew me away. The grass, the strawberries, the potatoes we were picking from the garden. There was this little cat Molly, and I only retrospectively, I look back, I was just intensely present. So I used to be always thinking, worrying, up in my head all the time. But I didn't realise it back then when I was in detox, but I felt amazing. I was in the midst of a heroin detox after 15 years of addiction. Physically, I had fevers. It was horrible from a physical perspective. But it was like my soul was coming back alive, and it just felt bloody incredible. So it was mad. It was just mad that this sort of burning curiosity was just lit up inside of me. That's all I can say. What was the question again? Sorry, I went off on a tangent there.
How was it scary? Why did you go to college?
That's
and
what
why
it
did you
was.
pick that course?
So when I was in the midst of this, right, I learned about meditation. I was given books when I was in detox, and it just became this big learning thing for me. I became so curious about the human mind. But there was a psychologist in there, and I remember she said, her name was Natalie, she had a master's in psychology, and I was like, wow, she's a master's, that's mad. Because I'd never gone to college. And I was saying to myself, maybe I could go to college. But from that experience I had, that near-death experience, that seizure I had, I actually thought I was brain damaged, because I remember I couldn't make sense of my reality when I was in hospital, and my brain just felt off, and I actually thought I was brain damaged. And there was a doctor called Dr. Johanna Ivers came into the detox facility. And I was mad as a brush. I nearly thought I could talk to the animals. I was having this mad spiritual experience, you know. Like, it was mad. I was very clear of mind, but I was very deluded in a funny way as well, like trying to find me feet after so many years of addiction. But she came in and wanted me to be part of a brain study looking at long-term methadone use. And I'll never forget, I was sweeping. I think I was doing a bit of gardening when she came in, and she called me into the office, and she was asking me certain questions before I was brought to St. James's to do a brain scan. And when she was asking me the questions, I had put into me diary, I was journaling in there, maybe I can go back to college. And Johanna made an off-the-cuff comment to me when she was asking me all the questions. My newfound sort of interest in the mind was, I was just asking loads of questions. And she turned around to me and she says, "Do you know what, you've a very sharp mind." And I was like, geez, if some doctor thinks of a sharp mind, maybe I'm not brain damaged. Maybe I can go back to college. So that's what I decided. I'm going to go back to college to do a degree. The fear was still there. It was definitely still there. But 5 years later, Johanna gave me a job teaching the neuroscience of addiction in Trinity College. Like, that's the circular moment, a lovely circular moment. But when I went to college, and I think this is important because people might look at my journey and say, oh, he's a PhD and all this kind of stuff. When I went to college at the start, I went in to do an interview in Maynooth University to do a degree. It was the only one that was open. And the fella interviewing me at the end says, "I don't know if you can cope this year. Maybe we'll do you can go on an access course and come back next year because we don't think you can cope." Delusion, self-belief, I don't know what it was, but I says, "I'm not here to cope. I'm here to kick ass. I'm here to win.
Yeah.
And I don't know where it came from. And I remember he was like this in this chair. Who is this Majo? You know? But there was something inside of me just fiercely knew I'd put the action in. So they put me on a 2-week writing course and said, if you can pass that course, we'll let you in to do the psychology degree. Now, I found that so hard because I didn't write before then. I didn't even text much, to be quite honest. Any drugs, anything doing. That's about as far as it went, you know what I mean? But so I never wrote around like that, and I found it really hard, and I barely passed the writing course. But when I went to college and I started college, I got a book, How to Write Well. I joined the course, How to Write. I dug in the actions. I was obsessed, and I really dug in. And I ended up writing published academic articles. I wrote my own book. Like I wrote 99% of my own book. It's one of my greatest passions. But I learned it was made. That was made, that passion inside of me. So I was scared, but the actions killed it out. Like, you know what I mean? Like what you said. That was key.
Definitely.
That's something like Cal Newport talks about.
He's
And
dead.
it's like, you're not actually going to be passionate going into something. Like, I don't really believe in it. Some people can't believe in it. Like, I'm very open-minded. Like, I tell people, believe what you want to believe, and if it works for you, it works for you. But I don't believe, like, telling people to follow their passion, because some people don't know how to find their passion.
Yeah.
So maybe just start something and it'll become a passion.
Yeah.
I didn't know I wanted to be a podcaster.
Oh,
I just
yeah.
started, and now it is my passion.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what Cal Newport talks about. Like, just start, and it'll actually become your passion then through the skills that you're learning.
That's something that I always throw myself into new situations, meeting new people, whether it could be anything like new courses, and like I just throw myself into it, because any time I've actually been put under pressure and say I've done something, but I've done it with somebody, or I'd do that and then it would be done and I'd be looking at it saying, you know, what was I stressing over it? I done it with this person, but that was simple enough. I could probably do it by myself. So now I go into that with everything. I think I'll be able to do this. I just need to start. The hardest part is just start and just go for it, and even if you can't do it, then you learn for the next time, you know. Exactly. yeah.
Like, there's a lot of singers in the world, like, and rappers in the world that never were passionate about music, but they thought the only way they were going to make it out of hood was to get into music, and they got into it, and then that ended up being that passion, and now they're biggest in the world. Loads out there, you know.
There's a fella out there, he's on all the great books, and Cal Newport, like a lot of people don't, did deep work, some fantastic stuff in that. But there's a fella called Nassim Taleb. Have you heard of Taleb's work? Nassim Taleb. So he wrote a book called Outliers and Black Swan. He's more of a chaotician, but he's a really interesting fella, right? So he failed at maths in school, but then he got big into investing, and he found out, oh shit, I'm gonna have to be really good at maths to be an investor at statistics. He's one of the best statisticians in the world now. He's won millions, hundreds of millions. So he found, he hadn't got a passion for maths, but he found something else that brought him a passion for maths. You know what I mean? But what is that saying there? Jesus, he was leagues ahead of the game, lads. Like, I only learned this probably 2 years ago. And someone had said to me, it was around networking and reaching out to different people. And the person that I was networking with, she says, don't ask to meet someone to sell them something or whatever, the product or the service. Just meet and ask them for a coffee. Most of the business stuff happens over just meeting someone for a bit of a laugh, having a bit of a chat. He says, because life is a contact sport. You have to get a rub of it. And I remember thinking, right, life is a contact sport with networking, but life is a contact sport for everything. You have to get the rub of the podcast, the feel of it, you know that way? So it's only putting yourself out there into it that you get a feel for stuff. That's my advice to young people. Just go and get a feel of different things, you know?
What's the quote you say? It's about driving or something. You're driving instructor tells you. It's all about experience.
So, yeah, he said, on my last driving lesson, he said to me, now, right, your test will probably be in another few months now, but this is the lessons done. Now go out and get something I can teach you, experience.
Yeah.
I was like, that's dead. Like, that is just one of them amazing things. But something that always lights a fire in me about people who doubt themselves or get told no or door shut in their face is, do you know Pharrell Williams? The big producer. He worked at McDonald's.
Yeah.
He got sacked from McDonald's 4 times. And then 3 years later, I think it was 2 or 3 years after he got sacked for the 4th time, McDonald's approached him and asked him to do that jingle for him, that and he went and done that. That was his full circle moment.
He still gets paid off that.
I was gonna say, how much is he getting on that? Like
millions. More, I think billion. I wouldn't say billions.
What
millions?
What would you describe addiction as?
Oh, right. So the general the definition of addiction, I suppose, that's like there's multiple different definitions of addiction, so it depends who's really talking about it. It's a loose kind of a term. But the general one that people say is like it's continued use of a behaviour or a substance despite harm to self or others, which means you're continuing to do it even though it's causing harm, but not only to yourself, to other people as well. So like the reality is like, and I'm not condoning like low gargling out your head or using coke or anything like that, but if somebody was to use coke on a Saturday and a Sunday night and it never caused any issues financially, mentally, or it would cause something over time, but imagine it didn't. Let's say a thought experiment and it didn't. That doesn't fit the bill of addiction, you know what I mean? So there has to be consequences. But I think the core nature of addiction for me is escape and avoid. Like if you're using a behaviour or a substance to escape or avoid how you feel, that's a challenge. That can become an addiction. But there's multiple ways to really find addiction, or to really different pathways to addiction. Like a lot of my PhD research was looking at emotion driven pathways to addiction. And there's sort of positive and negative emotion pathways. And think about it this way, right? It's Monday. I feel like shit. Give me a drink. So let's say when you feel like crap, you learn that alcohol makes you feel better, because the principle in psychology that's really powerful is that behaviour that's rewarded is repeated. So if you're stressed or anxious and you're drinking and it's taking that pain away, that's a reward. So that behaviour is going to be repeated. But it could be a Friday. You might be, let's go out and have a laugh, and you go out to self-enhance yourself and feel great. That can turn into addictive behaviour as well. So it's very complex, it's very nuanced, but there's a few loose terms. I think escape and avoid is one thing, and consequences. If there's consequences and you can't stop, that's another key area of it as well.
Do you think addiction only applies to drink and drugs, or is that plenty of other things?
Addiction applies to everything, like work, gambling, exercise.
I think even sugar addiction. Some people don't realise sugar addiction.
Big time sugar addiction. Sure, sugar. Like, so dopamine is the neurotransmitter that's released in your brain, and people often think of dopamine as like a pleasure neurotransmitter, and it does make you feel good. If you take something that makes you feel good, dopamine is released. But the key isn't to make you feel good. The key element of that process is that it motivates you to do it again in the future, and that's where the addiction lies. So if you eat chocolate and it feels good, I'll do that again. So if you keep on doing it again and again and again, then you can't stop because it makes you feel so good. That's the dopamine from the sugar giving you that, and that's an addiction.
The term addictive personality gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah, I don't like it.
And I'm not a big fan of it myself, but do you think there are certain people who are, I don't know how to word this, but maybe better cope? Say somebody could go out on a Saturday night and say, right, I'm going to try cocaine, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. And they can go and try it for 2-3 weeks and then say, nah, you know what, I don't like it, I'm done with that. And then another person that do that, try it for 3 weeks and say, I don't like it, but I feel like I need to do it again. I need to do it. And do you think some people fall into addiction easier, or is that just...
Definitely, but what I would say is, and I think the reason why I don't like personality, like we're playing word games and language games here, right? So I don't like the personality piece, because it's saying personality is sort of something that you're born with. To a certain extent, personalities can change as well, but it's something that's really inside of you. Whereas I think addiction is more driven from your history of what's happened to you in the past. So let's say there was 7 of us. We said we'd do heroin once. We were big into the Doors. Jim Morrison. He's probably too young to have heard of the Doors, is?
Was it a TV show?
No, it was a band back in the 60s. Now I'm too old. I wouldn't be going back to the 60s. But we were mad into the Doors, and Jim Morrison was a very cool singer, and he was like, try everything once. So we were mad into them. And he says, right, Jim, we'll try heroin once, because he done heroin. Heroin killed him, so I don't know why we said we'd do it. But there was 7 of us the first time doing heroin once. Only 2 of us got strung out, and it was the 2 that were sort of struggling more with emotional pain. So it was the emotional pain that we had from our past, the trauma, I suppose, that we had, that made us more susceptible to that addiction. So another element of that as well, like people throw out ADHD and all of this terminology as well, but really one core biological, it's not a biological marker, but it's a feature of ADHD, is an inability to produce dopamine. So if you have a lack of dopamine, and then all of a sudden cocaine comes along and gives you this big boost of dopamine, that's going to bring it back into balance. So it's more rewarding for you than it would be for someone else. So that person can be more susceptible. Now call that personality if you want. Maybe history might shape your personality, but I don't think it's more of your history of experiences and your conditioning over time that can make you more susceptible to addictive tendencies. I think that's more accurate, you know.
What's the difference between like a positive dopamine and negative? Because I heard Wim Hof talking about it, and he was saying like that. Obviously, ice baths and all that he does is like positive dopamine.
That's an interesting way of putting it, yeah. So I do ice baths. I'm into the ice baths. So let's say crack cocaine. That's negative dopamine. But there's no dopamine's dopamine. Dopamine's a neurotransmitter. It's a molecule, and nature will not determine. So it's not nature. There's no difference between a negative dopamine. Let's say you had a negative dopamine and a positive dopamine.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing different about them biologically. So psychologically or behaviourally, what makes them different is one of them's coming from doing crack, where the other one's coming from an ice bath.
Yeah.
So why the crack is bad dopamine, it's not so much the dopamine molecule or neurotransmitter itself. When you take crack or cocaine, there's an instant burst of dopamine is released. So they're called vesicles within the neuron, within the brain cell. They will just be releasing all this dopamine. It floods the brain really quick, but then it's gone. So what's the brain want? It wants it back again really, really quick. So you take another hit, especially with crack, because that can be really, really bad. But with an ice bath, and this is where Wim Hof will talk about that, an ice bath releases the same amount of dopamine than crack, but it releases it over the course of 3 to 4 hours. That's what the research points towards. So that's more positive dopamine because of the speed of the release of the dopamine. So that's why you feel so good. You feel so energised after doing the ice baths, you know?
Yeah. Something I always really like, I'm a deep thinker, and sometimes I obsess over certain things, and something that was on my mind recently is the likes of people that are high performers and high achievers and sort of set themselves these huge goals. Like, I thought deeply into that, and I think that's because people like that are constantly like, success isn't a destination, it's a journey. Like, people like that are constantly chasing hits and constantly set these big goals, and then all of a sudden when they actually achieve them, and their mind is still hardwired to constantly 24/7 be working towards these goals, and then it's all of a sudden everything's just complete and there's nothing more to do. That's when the drugs come into it, because they're getting sort of dopamine hits, and that's when their brain is sort of working, and that gives their brain a little bit of release. If you get me.
It's their addiction nearly.
Yeah, it's their addiction, and I think people like that. I don't, you don't know the ins and outs, but I think what you're describing there, that people think, right, they're driven, so driven, and it can be high performers, it can be different levels, but those here high performers, but they're driven to get to a certain destination, thinking that they'll be full up when they get to that destination, but all of a sudden they get all of the things that they dreamed of, and it doesn't fill them up. So like, shit, what else? I think it was Jim Carrey that once said the best thing about coming rich and famous is that you realise that it's not about being rich and famous. That doesn't fill you up. So you can go looking for the real thing rather than looking for a spiritual solution. And when I say the word spiritual, I don't mean anything religious. For me, spirituality is awareness, connection, energy, peace, presence. And I think that's what happened to me. I had a spiritual experience where I just felt so present and alive and joyful and full up. But when you get back into the rat race, like, I got pulled back into the rat race, writing a book, doing a podcast, I pulled here, there and everywhere. But I felt that spiritual thing kind of pulling me back, just to slow down, just to feel good, to feel joy, to feel at ease, to feel like, they say wake up and smell the roses, like it's a cliche, but that's what it is. Like, you can go through life without smelling flowers, without recognising nature, without recognising spending time with your loved ones and your kids. Like, most people are working week to week and go a whole year not spending quality time with their kids because they're up in their head all the time. And I think that's where that's the journey right there, being present. You know,
mentioned the rat race there. What do you think the rat race is? A lot of people mention it, but people don't really understand it.
Define it, like.
Define it. Oh God, the definition of the rat race for me, it's running around, being so busy with things that society says is important, like making money, going out to parties, and all these things are important, like, you know what I mean? But if you're working every minute of the day, if you're rushing around, you're listening to podcasts, you're listening to music, you can't sit easy with yourself, you're jumping into this, you're jumping into that, and trying to pay bills, just always on the go, go. Well, you're not actually being, like, there's that great line out there, like, we're not human doings, we're human beings. But everyone's going around doing, going. That's the rat race, you know. It's if you went to Nepal and you or somewhere like that, or Tibet, and you studied in in a monastery or meditate or just spend time in nature. That's stepping out of the rat race. But if you're in Western society and you're working and you're hustling, like, that's where the hustle, like, I love seeing young people hustling, but like, you don't want to be 60 and still hustling, like, you know what I mean? It's okay if you have nothing and you need to hustle for a certain amount of time. At 60 even, that's fine. But the hustle isn't the solution. The hustle is an exciting thing to get you there. So even for you, as I see it, I look at you and I say, deadly, loving the hustle, lads. But make sure you have time to smell the roses. Make sure you step. And what did you say before that? You're actually taking a bit of a break to slow down. So to have that awareness, that's really brilliant. You know what I mean?
The way I look at that as well is I actually had an argument with not an argument, but a disagreement with somebody close to me, because they said to me, take it, like, slow down a bit and make sure you have a good crack, go out with your friends, go to the pub, blah blah blah. I was thinking to myself, like, yeah, but that's not what I'm interested in. I think, like, different people's purposes and different people's fun is, like, so different. Than, like, it's a line actually 50 Cent says in one of his songs, success is my drug of choice, I'm high off in life, and this is, like, this sort of would be my purpose, and this is, like, the way I always say to people is, it's either 5 years of sacrifice or 50 years of struggle. So this is my 5 years of sacrifice, and this is where I'm actually enjoying this, because I know one day it's all going to click and it's never going to be the same again, and I'm enjoying the journey, because I realise success isn't the destination, it's the journey. And, like, through all this work, this is like this is where I get my dopamine hits, is like when I get a big guest on, or a podcast goes well, or we sell a certain amount on the clothing brand, or we get a new sponsor, or we get new equipment, or we learn something new, or an episode does very well, or we get a few followers. You know what I mean? That is my definition of fun.
I think the same. I think it's just in me though. Like, I don't even think of it like 5 years thing, 10 years, 50. I genuinely think 30 years I could be still sitting on the seat doing what I'm doing. Like, I find this way easier than going home now after this and doing my homework.
Yeah.
Like, I really do. Like, this lights me up.
Feel the buzz in you know what I mean? And I love that, and I think where you are at the moment, it's great. But where this could step into the rat race, right? Imagine all of a sudden you get bigger guests, you get bigger sponsors, you're getting the money, you're getting this, you're getting that, which is brilliant, right? But it's like having the awareness. I think awareness, self-awareness is the holy grail. So if you can pull out of that and say, right, this is great, everything's going fantastic, I'm loving my life right now, but am I tired? Am I feeling burnt out? Am I chasing the wrong things? Like, you can get caught up, and like, this is fantastic right now, but it could turn into the rat race if you're chasing. So it's nearly like to say to yourselves, right, what is there's no destination, but what do we want? And I think something I always come back to is values. I mean, you mentioned it there at the very start, like, what is your values? What is important to you? And I often say this, like, my 3 core values, right, are my energy, my health, and my relationships. So I'm saying no to a lot of stuff next year. I'm 47 years of age. I need to spend more time with my loved ones. I need to look after my health. I need to look after my energy. But I often say that to people, like, values are context dependent, and are time bound as well. Like, if I was 17, boldness is a core value of mine. But it'd be more of a value if I was 17, 18, or in my 20s, you know what I mean? So yous are at the age to take risks and really be bold and really enjoy this stuff. But always keep one eye on your inner game. How am I feeling? What am I thinking? What's pulling me off course? And that's awareness is always the holy grail. I should nearly trump all else to make sure you're not getting pulled into a rat race, you know, that way. But you're describing that thing with your mates and all going out, and that's great, that's for them. But that's not that could be part of a rat race as well, like, you know, that way. So you're doing something that lights you up, and you can feel it's so authentically genuine, you know.
Someone was going to ask you is, how do you feel about, like, social media taking away from awareness? Like, you're talking about, like, bringing present with your loved ones.
Actually,
seen that wrecks a lot of people.
Seen something that hit me deeply the other day. It was one of them Instagram reels, and it was like, stop, what are you doing? It was like, take a bit of time to think, put the phone down for 10 minutes. He said, when do you ever think? He said, your brain is probably hasn't thought in the last 5 weeks or something. He said, you're either asleep, when you wake up, you're on your phone, then you're getting ready, then you're going to work, then you're on your phone, your lunch break, then you go home, you have your dinner, you're on your phone, Then you go home, or you're in the shower, you're listening to music, or you're listening to podcasts on your way home, your way to work. He said, just stop 5 minutes to yourself and just think. Like the idea, it was actually a film I caught as well. When I read Shoe Dog, it was, don't go to sleep one night and sit by yourself, and whatever you most want will come.
Yeah.
That's what Colin Newport talks about as well. He says we're not only living in one world anymore, we're living in 2 worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then ChatGPT and AI and all this stuff comes into it as well. We're just not thinking anymore, you know that way. You've got to, I think, what was it? It was a fella called Zach Rana. He used to be a great writer on Medium. He had this article. I can never find the article, but he says the most important skill that nobody ever teaches you is sitting quietly with yourself, and it's thinking and it's reflecting. And nobody's done that for a long, long time. But now with the phones and with AI, it's really problematic. And I'm addicted to my phone, not as much as other people. I don't doom scroll around like that, but my business is around the phone and social media. If you put a reel up, is it getting traction? And you're getting dopamine hits off that, you really are. So that can pull you off course as well, and everyone's susceptible to that. So that's why I always come back, right? Awareness. That really is the holy grail. And I'll tell you one other thing about values as well. Like, I always keep an eye on, like, what's your values. And I don't know what your values are, but, like, a great way of thinking about values is, like, what would you want your loved ones to say about you at your own funeral? It's taking you out of your own perspective. And I love that question. And if I think of the younger people in my life, the kids in my life, they want me time and they want me presence. So if I'm on my phone, if I'm in the rat race and I'm running around, well, I want my loved ones to say I was there for them, that I had the time, I connected with them. So that's what's important to me, you know what I mean? And there was a you like this one, I think. There's a definition of hell I heard years ago, and it just sent fucking shivers through my spine. It says, imagine the person you could have become on your last day on earth. The person you could have become meets the person you became.
Yeah.
That's shocking. And that'd be me as the addict meeting sort of the person I am today. But even if I think the person I am today, imagine I got pulled out into the rat race and I got mad into all of me work, and I didn't spend time with loved ones, and I didn't look after me health because I was chasing podcast, business, work and all this, and I got all that stuff and I made a few quid. But I'm looking at this person on my last day on earth. I could have been that person who was calm, healthy, spending time, his family, love him and stuff like that. So that's the priority. Human connection is really, really important, you know.
That's like something I seen. I think it was David Goggins. He was talking about.
He's gas, isn't he?
Yeah, he's so man. In a podcast, he was saying, now imagine you went to heaven when all is said and done, and you're in this long queue, and God is sort of reading out this list, and then it gets to you, and he's like, right,
Judgment Day.
Judgment Day or something, and he's like, right, and it gets to you, and he says, ultramarathon runner, inspiration all around the world, 3 million followers, family man, multi-millionaire, this business, blah blah, and you're looking at him, and he said, this is still the same me that was just killing bugs for a living and scratching my head saying, no, that's not me. And he said, yeah, but this is who you could have became.
Yeah.
And he was like, that's why you need to, like, just shoot for the stars.
Shoot for the stars, give it a go.
I heard something else Goggins said that'll come back to me though, but it's along the lines of that. But it's like what we were talking about there. It was about, like, social media and, like, how focused people are on other people's lives, when if they had spent them hours focusing on their own lives, they'd be in the same position.
Or focusing on what other people think of them. They're still focusing on other people all the time, you know. Yeah.
What's something you believe in that most people don't?
Something I believe in that most people don't. I go back to whether other people don't believe or not, or other people probably aren't aware of or not. It'd be more to the point. I think the biggest tool or the biggest learning that I've had in my life is an ability to observe myself. So, like, who are you is the question that many people are asked. Like, who are you? And we can't answer that question. I might say, oh well, I'm a podcaster, I do a bit of TV work, I do talks, I'm a partner of me partner, I'm a stepfather, all these things. They're just labels, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But who am I? You know what I mean? And you might think you're your thoughts, your feelings, your body even for that matter. But that's not who you are either. I think who we are fundamentally is the observer of all of them things. Because if I asked you there, like, what are you thinking? What thoughts are going through your head? So we'll do this actually for a second. Like, what thoughts are going through your head? Who's observing those thoughts, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What are you feeling right now? Who's observing them feelings? So there's this kind of like witness or this observer out there that's able to observe your thoughts and your feelings and your bodily sensations. Because I could have said years ago I was an anxious addict. I could have said it 7 or 8 years ago when I was mad into academia. I'm an academic. I'm smart academic. That could have been my identity or my ego or whatever. But I'm not really interested too much in academia anymore. I'm certainly not an anxious addict anymore. So who am I? But the same Brian that has these thoughts and experiences these thoughts and these feelings, or the same Brian that looks in the mirror, is still there. So it's this observer of self is the key thing. And if we can create a sense of detachment from who we think we are, our thoughts and our feelings, and we can become the observer of that. And when I talk about self-awareness, that's what I'm really talking about, is an ability to be aware of the self. So I don't think most people think about this or try to act that way. And for me, it's one of the reasons, like, anxiety was my kryptonite. I enjoy anxiety today. Not because I don't experience it, I experience it, but I experience it from an observer perspective. I might feel tight in my chest, but it will come and it will go. I'm alright with that, you know. So it's becoming the observer has been absolutely fundamental. And when I explain this to some people, they probably get it to an extent, but it's only when you get the rub of it. It's only when you experience it. That's when you really feel it, you know.
In a world full of anxiety, how did you overcome it? Or did you overcome it?
I have overcome it, but overcome it completely. And like, people often talk about people in addiction that are in recovery. I don't believe I'm in recovery. I believe I'm recovered. I could sit in a room full of heroin, and not only would I not want to do it, like, not only would it not like lure me in, it would be aversive to me. Like, why would I do heroin? My value is in my health and my energy. Heroin's going to take away my energy and my health. I wouldn't want it. But the reason I'm like that is because I'm recovered, and I've overcome anxiety. So for me, the lever I use sort of for managing anxiety, I exercise, I have connection in my life, but it's a breathwork technique that I use that sort of regulates my heart rate. So I'm able to regulate my heart rate. So if anxious thoughts come in, and they don't really come in anymore, I don't really struggle at all with anxiety anymore. I might be doing a big talk. I remember the last big talk I did when it was 2,000 people in the convention centre. I knew I was going to get anxious on stage. You always do. But I was able to just breathe me way, lower the heart rate down, and I felt grand. So I've nearly navigated anxiety through multiple different tools and tactics. But one thing I will say, because people come to me and they're looking for the solution of addiction, they're looking for the solution of anxiety, that was my solution. You know what I mean? For some people, there's different solutions. So that was my solution, was these tools really worked. But it was part of my journey, part of that shift in perspective, part of finding purpose and meaning in my life as well. That just really shifted over time. But yeah, I still get anxious. I hope I do, because if I walk out here, I won't say cause I'm here, it could be anywhere, but if I walk out here and someone tries to jump on me and mug me walking down the street, I hope I get anxious. I hope the stress response kicks in so I can fight or run. That's what it's for. That's what evolution gave us this for, you know what I mean? So anxiety isn't a bad thing. It's data, it's information. It's only when people are anxious and they have chronic anxiety, they're worried about getting anxious, the anxiety's driving the anxiety, and they're up in their heads, they're worried about what they look like on Instagram and what their friends think. That's where anxiety can be all consuming. So it's stepping out of that into that observer perspective and watch those feelings. That's the key.
Creating you learn how to deal with it in different circumstances, isn't it?
Yeah, experience plays a role as well, you know. Yeah.
What's the hardest obstacle you've had to overcome?
The hardest obstacle I've had to overcome. Do you know what? It's been, and it's still there to a certain extent. So the trauma that I experienced, I had a bodily trauma as a baby, a young baby. I had an operation without a general anaesthetic. So it was awake undergoing an operation. It was part of the medical practice at the time. But between that trauma, which I believe was a core facet of my feeling unsafe in my own body, I ended up having this phobic fear of my heartbeat, my breath, my pulse, terrified of my own inner body. Like, if I heard my own heartbeat, I'd have an air panic attack. A huge part of my addiction and trying to sort of calm myself, like, heroin just soothed that inner noise and that bodily sensations that just, I was like, imagine being afraid of your own inner body, like hearing your heartbeat, you're trying to run away from it, you can't run away from your heartbeat. And even years in recovery, I was still struggling with feeling my heartbeat, my pulse. And I suppose the biggest thing I've ever gotten across, and whether we'll ever completely overcome it, I don't know, because of the trauma. But I'm still not at complete peace with my own body. Like, if you got me to put my hand on my heart and really feel my heartbeat, there will be an anxiety within me. And even if I'm getting a blood pressure test, not a blood pressure test where it pulses, that pulsing sensation. And I think it goes back to the experience I had as a baby. Like, I struggled for years as a baby. So that's something that I really struggle with and struggle to overcome. But it's not a challenge in my life. I've done a lot of trauma work to really get at ease with that. And it's gotten to a certain level where I don't really have to do any more work. But that's probably the biggest obstacle I have to overcome, to be honest.
What does success mean to you?
Oh, yeah, inner peace. Peace of mind.
Really?
Yeah, peace of mind. Simple as that.
What's the best piece of advice you ever received? And the
Gonna
worst
ask
piece of
that.
advice you
Gonna
ever
ask
received?
The worst piece of advice I've ever received. I'm not great at the best piece of advice I've ever received. Do you know what? I always say this one, and I need to reflect more deeply on this. It's me go-to, and I don't know whether it is. But it's it was a pal of mine, Brezzy. He'd be a good man. Do you know Noel Breslin? He'd be a good man to get on the podcast. He's very, very good.
Is he from Dublin, though?
He's down in Wicklow, he is. Yeah, he's a bit of a distance away from here. I dragged him up the Swords on my podcast all the way, yeah. I'll say it to him. I'll see him soon, actually. I'll say it to him, yeah. But he's a great man. But he said to me, because I was getting a bit of traction and stuff, and he says, look, people don't actually want your help. They just want to burn the ears off you. And it was really interesting, because I get a lot of people saying, oh, I'm struggling with this, I'm struggling with that. Not even for struggling with stuff. They just want to meet for a coffee because they have a challenge with something.
Yeah.
And then they're not really looking for help. They're just looking to have a chat. And that's all right as well. Like, there's no problem with that. But what I got from that advice was that people aren't willing to actually put the actions in.
Yeah.
That's something that's missing. They want the quick fix. They're looking for a quick solution, but they're not actually looking to put it into practice. And I suppose that's what Brezzy was really saying. Like, they just want to burn the ears off you. They're not willing to act on something, you know, that way.
They kind of like a shoulder to lean on, in a sense, but they won't stand up themselves. And
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Describe your success so far in 3 words.
Wow.
Or 3 traits.
Oh man, 3 traits, right? Relentless came to mind. The word relentless came to mind. I'd be fairly relentless. I don't like the word resilient, because I think it's sort of be gritty and determined. They're great traits, but eventually the hard knocks of life will knock you down. So anti-fragile is the other word. So relentless and anti-fragile means like the opposite of fragile.
Yeah.
That the challenges of life make you stronger. And I'll give you an example of that. Like, let's say I have a stressful situation in my life. I go to the breath. That's my lever. So that challenge makes me stronger because I'm going to the breath. I'm using that challenge as the fuel to learn and grow. So that's being not fragile, not resilient. It's anti-fragile. The challenge makes you stronger. So relentless, anti-fragile, and I go with the word joy. That's what came to mind, so we'll go with that.
Daily. What do you think is the best question you've ever been asked?
The best question I've ever been asked.
It's probably a hard question.
It is a hard question. There's nothing really coming to mind. I don't want to just...
First time I ever asked somebody it, but
Is it? What's the best question you've ever been asked? Let me come back to that. That might circle back.
yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody right now who's going through addiction, or they've nowhere to turn, or they think their life's over? What?
Well, never give up. There's always hope. That's one thing I'd always say. There's always hope. Like, I was written off. My family had nearly written me off. Not in a bad way or anything like that. Like, even my sister often says, like, it would have been better for me and better for the family if I died, because I was going through so much pain and I was putting the family through so much pain. So, like, there's always hope, like, you know what I mean? But the advice I give to somebody would just reach out and ask for help. And again, it's really hard. It's so hard. When you're in that space, it's really difficult to have some kind of belief that there is hope. You just can't see it. It's all consuming, you know that way. But if you keep on trying, and again, like that word relentless, like never giving up. Just be relentless. Just keep on going, hanging in there as much as you can. But one thing I've found is that human beings are just incredible. There's so many people out there in the world, so much empathy and compassion out there in the world. There's a lot of challenges, there's a lot of greed, there's a lot of power, hungry shit, there's a lot of evil stuff going down. But there is so much compassion at the same time. There's people out there that want to help you. And I suppose like it's very difficult for people in addiction because they've probably been born so many times. They've never had a taste of that compassion and empathy of other people. But those people are out there, so just sort of have a bit of faith in that and just try to push through it, you know.
See the good in every bad sort of thing.
Yeah, it's really difficult. I don't like saying that to people that are really struggling, because it's easy for me to sit here, having come through it, to say there's good stuff in all kinds of adversity, and that's my nature now, to lean into the shit, to learn, like, you know what I mean, like that's I used to say my belief system was I can't cope. My belief system today is adversity doesn't stop me, it fuels my learning and my growth. But to say that to someone in the depths of addiction, like, they might just need a hug, they might just need a little sprinkling of hope, they just need something to keep them going, and then hopefully something will just land. Like, I think people often ask me, like, what lights me up, what's my mission? When I talk to somebody and I see that light bulb going off, it's like something lands, like that aha moment. When I see something like that, that's what lights me up, when someone really gets it. And you don't get that by telling someone what to do, trying to fix their problems. I think through storytelling, that's why podcasts are so powerful. Someone might relate to something I'm saying, but they have to come to a realisation themselves. That's the truth. They have to come to a realisation themselves. And that probably goes back to the best bit of advice I ever got as well. Like, people have to run their own race. They have to experience it themselves. And when you realise something yourself, you get ownership over it. But if someone tells you what to do and you're doing it because you were told, it's not really gonna last, you know.
No. What are you working towards in the next 5 years? What's a few goals?
The podcast is a big one for me at the moment. The podcast is huge. I'm doing a couple of international talks at the moment. So I was over in Vegas there last year, which was the first time in the US. I'm going back and getting invited back to Vegas in 2026, December 2026, for a big addiction and mental health conference over there. I think I'm going to New York. So we've been just branching out into America and the UK. Want to do a bit more work there. But to be honest, right, it's about living for me. I want to live. Like, I want to work, but I want to live as well. And I don't really believe in, like, work-life balance, work then and life then, separate them. Like, they can go together. So like the gig I'm getting over in Vegas now next year, like, I have to talk to the crew around fees and stuff like that. But I'm like, if you bring me, my partner and my stepdaughter over on first class flights, that'll do. Put us up in a hotel, feed us, so that's the fee. Like, now that'll cost a right few quid, I'd say. Yeah. But it's about, I'm going over there, I'll deliver the talk, I love that, but we're getting that incredible experience as well. So it's about, life is about experiences, it's about creating memories and stuff like that, and I love what I do, so that'd be great as well. So more experiences that link in with that. And podcasting, like, you know what I mean, like my own podcast, getting to have conversations with people. I'm loving this conversation, you know what I mean. This is what it's about, that human connection, having conversations, learning. Like, I'm learning so much. 16, 17-year-old lads with this mindset, I'm blown away, like, you know what I mean. This is what I love, more of this.
If me and you disappeared tomorrow, I got this off School of Hard Knocks, if me and you disappeared tomorrow, what's one thing you'd like to leave with people, or one piece of information or advice?
If it was to disappear tomorrow, what would that? I'm trying to think of something that we haven't talked about already. Do you know what I go back to? It's just never give up.
Yeah.
Never ever give up. There's always hope. There's so many people struggling in the world, but there's always hope. All it takes is for one person to come into your life, for one thought to sort of open up a different way of thinking, for a belief system to change. I've seen so many people, like, change is hard. Change is so difficult. It's so hard, especially if you've come from hardship. But change is possible, and I think that's what's really, really key. If you can stay in the game, if you don't give up, whether you're struggling with mental health challenges, whether you're struggling with addiction, if you don't give up and you stay in the game, you're just giving yourself that fighting chance, you know what I mean? So just never give up. I think that's the key.
Is there anything you think we should have asked you, or anything you think we can do about that to bring into the next podcast?
Do better to bring it to the next podcast. Do you know what? I live with one story, right? Because I think storytelling is the key, right? So asking people about stories of their lives. We are hardwired for stories. We really are. And you ask me about stories in my life and stuff like that as well. That's brilliant. But it's something that I'm trying to bring into my own life as well. But there was a story I heard, it was by a book, and we're back to the awareness piece. Like, I think awareness is the holy grail. So if I can reiterate that part around awareness, it is just so important. And it's easy to be self-aware while you're doing a yoga class or a meditation class. But how self-aware are you when you're under pressure, when life is challenging you in some way? But I heard a great story one time. It's by a guy called Anthony DeMello. He wrote a book, brilliant book called Awareness. And the story was this, right? So it was this farmer walked out of his yard and he found his eagle's egg. It fell out of a tree and he couldn't get the egg back up into the tree. So he decided to put the eagle's egg into his chicken coop. So the little eagle, a few days later, hatched, looked around the chicken coop and thought he was a chicken. So he started looking, copying the other chickens, flapping his wings like a chicken, eating worms like a chicken, clucking like a chicken. Weeks gone by, little eagle thought he was a chicken. Months, years went by, little eagle still thought he was a chicken, until he looked up in the sky and he seen this golden eagle soaring through the sky. And he was like, wow, what's that? And the other chickens turned around and says, that's the eagle, the king of the skies. But we're just lowly chickens. We belong to the earth, and that's all we'll ever be. And the little eagle died thinking he was a chicken, right? So there's no happy ending to this story. But what Andy DeMello was trying to say was, right, that most people in the world are eagles, but they're living like chickens. Stress, anxiety, lacking self-belief, fears, all of these things. So they're in their chicken coop, afraid of going out into the world. But I remember reading this and saying to myself, I'm sick of being an eagle in a drug-riddled chicken coop. I'm an eagle. I'm going to get out there and I'm going to soar. And that was a big waking up point for me of putting myself out there into the world. And I think that's why I'm so buzzing looking at you. I was like 17 years of age. You are soaring through the sky out there, you know what I mean? But you've got to stay aware of, let's say, the wind currents that can blow you off course. Because success is going to come into your life. And I'll give you one other little bit of advice I got. You know what? Brilliant bit of advice I got one time by a guy called Greg McKeown. He wrote a book called Essentialism. And I think it was about...
another book.
Brilliant book. And I think this was about 5 years ago with me, and I was only starting on getting a bit of success, and in nearly a similar position. I'd only started off, like, he was a 60 in, so he's like, you're well on your way there. But he says, beware of the paradox of success, because shiny things are going to come your way. The more success the podcast get, the more people are going to want to talk to you and give you things and offer you things and pull you off course, pull you off mission. So be aware of the paradox of success. So success is going to bring you more opportunity. So be aware of, like, what's the right opportunity, and let your values guide that. Like, what's important to you. And you are on a relentless pursuit now at the minute. You are bold, you are putting yourselves out there into the world. But what is it? Is it inner peace? Is there joy? Is there happiness? What else is it in it for you? Is to make sure you have a guidance system for your life, so you don't get pulled off track too much as well, you know, that way. Because I think that's something in my life that keeps me aligned to my true north, is my values. I know what's important and I let them guide my decisions and guide my actions. So it's a really great system for life, you know.
It's daily.
Daily.
That eagle story is
It's
a
a
bit
good
like,
one, eh?
it's daily. It's a bit like, do you ever hear the crabs in the bucket or the fleas in the jar?
I've heard the crabs in the bucket where the other crabs are pulling the crabs
Yeah.
down. I only heard that recently. It's a great story.
It's
yeah.
amazing, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the truth. It's hard, but it's the
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah.
It's all about who you surround yourself with. Like.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
Well, thanks a lot for coming in.
Yeah.
Thank you, lads.
Where
This
can,
was an absolute pleasure.
Where can people find you online?
The
Watch
best
the
place,
podcast.
the best place to get me online. So the podcast change is possible. It's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and all that kind of stuff. Instagram, you get me on Instagram, just Brian Pennie, put my name. But just on the website, I have a website. It's www.brianpennie.com, just my name. But just for anyone listening, if you're struggling with mindset stuff, if you're struggling with self-talk, if you're struggling with addiction, or you know anyone with addiction, go onto my website and look up courses. And if you go into the online courses, just put in the word resilience into the coupon section and you get free access to all of the courses in there. I've done work with some of the best psychologists in the world around these courses, breaking bad habits and stuff like that. So anyone, just resilience in the coupon section, get free access to all the courses.
Last question. How powerful do you think the mind is?
Oh, I'll go back to that Henry Ford quote. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Like,
Yeah.
it is that. And so another one, I'm big on me quotes. I used to be mad into the quotes, but there's another one like the mind, belief. Yeah, belief. I love this one by a fella called, did you read The Magic of Thinking Big?
Oh,
David Schwartz.
David Schwartz.
Yeah, I'm ready,
It's a great book, but that's a brilliant book. But there's a quote in that: belief is the thermostat that regulates your success in life. So back to that, the mind is so bloody
Belief shapes
powerful.
your reality, doesn't it?
It's like something Mary Glenn says, limitation is a creation of the mind.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
like,
is.
belief,
It's the opposite of it. Like, you know what I mean? Really is.
genuinely does. Belief
That's-
just shapes your reality.
Yeah.
It's mad.
That would be one of the things when I asked you what's something you believe in that most people don't. Somebody asked me that. One of the answers would be that you can do whatever you want in this life. You just have to believe. That's
Yeah.
it.
And believe it so steadfastly that the actions will follow.
Yeah.
Like, belief isn't enough, it's the actions have to follow. But is it true belief if the actions don't follow? If you truly believe it, you will be acting.
That's the way I actually explained this to my mum. Or whatever you want in life, let's just say being an electrician, you have to really act like an electrician, think like an electrician, see the opportunities like an electrician, walk around like an electrician, because the same thing, it's like, it's something so simple, but if you think deep about it, it applies to your life.
Yeah.
When you go to bed at night, you get into bed, put your head in the pillow and close your eyes and pretend you're asleep and believe you're asleep until you actually fall asleep.
Yeah.
And, like, do that with
That's
everything.
It works,
Do
yeah.
that with everything, you know what I mean?
There's a similar thing I heard one time. It's like have, do, be. So people often think to be something, you have to have something and you have to do it. But it's nearly that in reverse. Like, if you want to be something, you have to, if you want to be somebody, a certain person in the world, let's just say, right, loads of people put up the millionaire thing as a thing of success, right? But you don't have to do the things that make you a millionaire. You have to act like a millionaire.
Yeah.
And when you act like it, then you have it, then you
become
do
it.
it, and then you become it, and it all follows. So it's being that person. And it's kind of in reverse, and people don't really get that, you know.
That's one of the last quotes I'll throw out. Success isn't about what you do. Success isn't about what you have. It's what you do with what you have until you're able to do or get more.
Yeah, I love it. Big on the quotes, lads.
I love
Yeah.
the
They're great,
quotes.
aren't
I
they?
love the quotes, yeah.
What's your favourite book? You've mentioned
My
Cal
favourite
Newport a few
book.
times.
Probably The 50th Law, 57
Favourite
Robert
book?
Greene.
Right.
That's
Right.
all about overcoming fear and just shooting for it.
probably Grit, to be honest.
Great.
Yeah,
Angela
Angela
Duckworth.
Duckworth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant. I'll give you one more story, lads. This is a good one, especially good for people listening. So, one of my favourite books is, have you aware of Tim Ferriss, yes?
Yeah.
So Tim Ferriss, he was the
Sorry,
first
Italian.
podcast. Yeah, he was the first podcast I started listening to, and I listened to his book Tribe of Mentors, and I was like, I want the tribe of mentors. I want the tribe of my own mentors. And Tim Ferriss, to write that book, he basically reached out to people in multiple different disciplines in the world. And I was struggling. I was trying to help younger people struggling with their own challenges. I was doing a lot of talks and schools, and I wanted to learn from people further along the path. So I literally Googled the 25 most influential women in Ireland, 25 most influential men in Ireland. List of names came up, all of these CEOs of industry, people in the arts and stuff like that, based on their names and the companies they worked for. Like Bernard Bourne, he was the CEO of AIB at the time. So I put bbourne at AIB.ie, Bernard Bourne at AIB.ie, Bernard.Bourne at AIB.ie. So I guessed the emails and sent all these emails out to all of these people of industry. 81% of them got back to me. I have mentors, friends, customers. I created an army of mentors, and it was just that boldness that just took it out there. And as I was saying, I said it to you beforehand, I was talking to one of their mentors on the way over here, and he says, geez, that's great, lads like that. He says, they sound like diamonds in the rough. Let me know when they need a job and I'll give it to them. You know what I mean? That's what people are looking for, that attitude, that boldness, that sort of lust for learning and stuff, you know. You can't buy it.
Definitely. Do you know what? Just after that story, another one's that are popping into my head. I think it's one of my home screens. It's the most talented or hard working people it's the people who are the most talented or most hard working don't always win, but it's the people who have the audacity to ask for more.
Yeah.
It's a fact there.
Yeah. just to keep pushing. It's that never give up again. Like, you never, keep going. But I'll always bring it back, and I think that can be the paradox of success as well, where more is great. Everything's context dependent, but it's having the awareness sometimes when enough is enough as well. You know that way. Like, if you're on the hustling, it's push, but it's knowing when to switch off. I have a very cyclical lifestyle as well, so I get really, really busy in September to November, and then February to June, crazy busy. But I take June, July, August, completely take July and August off, and I'm taking 6 weeks off in January and going off to the Alps to go on a skiing holiday with the family. That's that downtime, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's knowing when to switch on and switch off at the right times. I think that's really important, you know?
Daily. Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
it's been a pleasure.
It's an absolute pleasure, lads. I absolutely love this. Don't want to get you on my pod. Really,
I'll be on 100%. I'll take us out. Episode 60 wrapped up.